So good morning, I'm Ben Arrona. I'm going to explain who I am in just a second. But today we're going to be doing a lecture on delivering exceptional customer service, a guide to restaurant customer service. So who am I? My name is Ben Arrona. I am a local of San Luis Obispo. I've been here for over 40 years. Currently, I am the owner of Benny's Pizza Palace and Social Club. That's in San Luis Obispo. It's a Detroit-style pizza place. I barred most of my career in service was bartending. So I bartended for 15 plus years. I started my customer service journey, my restaurant journey when I was 14 years old. I was a busser at a Chinese restaurant here in town, Golden China. I don't know if anyone remembers that in San Luis Obispo. But I have 20 plus years of front of the house and back of the house experience. I have done everything from bussing and dishwashing to bartending, cooking, hosting, serving. I've done every single position and management experience at Benny's for the last 4 years. I am a SBDC restaurant consultant, and I also am a history professor at Cuesta College. I've been doing that for 8 years, and I have a PhD candidate. I'm probably got about a year left on my PhD at the University of Oxford, a small little university in England. And yeah, here I am. So, importance of excellent customer service in restaurants. We're going to launch into this with a video in just a second. That's going to kind of set the pace for the entire lecture. But what's super important when we start thinking about customer service in restaurants is customer satisfaction, right? And what does customer satisfaction mean? It means repeat customers, and then of course it means increased revenue for the business owner, okay? If people love a restaurant and they go to a restaurant, it becomes a community space, right? So there's then a community impact with that customer service. You get a positive reputation as the restaurant, then people love to work there, okay? Let's start off with this video. So guys, keep in mind, this video can kind of, it definitely is a story with restaurants, but it can be applied to everywhere in life.
I want to tell you a story about a couple, 40th anniversary. We have less and less of these in modern day America. They're driving up from Denver, 45 minutes, to come to eat at my restaurant. It's a Friday evening, 40th anniversary, super important. They get stuck in rush hour traffic. Their tensions get really intense. They have a 6 o'clock reservation on a Friday. They wanted a 7 o'clock. We only had a 6 o'clock. She's upset with him for not leaving work early. He's upset with her because she didn't think his work was important enough that day. They had a project due. They pull into Boulder. There's no parking. And they're now 25 minutes late for their 6 o'clock reservation. They walk in the front door of Frasca. They're completely blown out. And this is their 40th wedding anniversary. A huge accomplishment of celebration, and they're blown out. They get seated at the best table that we have because they had told us on the reservation that it was their 40th anniversary. We go to pour them, and our server, Rose, who's been with us since opening night, has the idea that it's a 40th anniversary. She goes to pour them a little glass of white wine, and the wife lashes out at her. "What are you doing? I didn't order this." And Rose said, "Of course not. This is from me to start your evening and let you relax and look at the menu. I knew you were stuck in rush hour." Rose has taken care of what we call hospitality intervention. And it's very important that she was able to do that. People like Rose, we have an Italian restaurant, so people like Rose that conduct the authentic act of hospitality, we call them a hospitalian. So I want to talk to you about the difference between service and hospitality. We have it all wrong in the United States. We think service and hospitality is the same. There's actually awards, the Service and Hospitality Award. They're not interchangeable. They're different. Service would be what I would do if I took the spaghetti con ricci and took it to your table and served from the left perfectly and smiled and said, "Buon appetito." I would have done something to you. Hospitality is not thinking of yourself, thinking of the other person and making them feel different, changing how they feel. I was on vacation last year, and I ate, my wife and I love traveling, and we're in the restaurant business, so we eat a lot. And we're at a Michelin 3-star restaurant in Paris, and that's the highest award in restaurant touring. And we ate at a restaurant that had a wonderfully curated staff, the greatest maitre d' in Paris, the hottest young sommelier in Paris, captains that were mercenaries from all the other great Michelin 3 stars. And we had a wonderful meal, torte canard, tableside, dollop of caviar on the Wild Turbo. Every box was clicked to perfection. We walked out into the Parisian night and we had a perfect meal. But something was missing. The next night, we had an EasyJet flight to Modena, Italy, $69. Ate at Osteria Francescana restaurant, Michelin 3 stars, just became top 3 restaurant in the world. Any restaurant that could rest on their laurels and not go the extra bit could be them. They changed the night. The chef in his crispy white chef's coat and his lime green New Balance sneakers comes into this stoic dining room and checked on all the tables individually, 12 tables. We had an anniversary, my wife and I on vacation, 6 businessmen and a young chef from London, a young line chef, the lowest on the totem pole. Chef Massimo Bottura sees that this young man's taking a photo, takes him to the back to the kitchen, and shows him how he made the last dish, the bollito misto, non-bollito. It would be like us being at a Rolling Stones concert and Mick Jagger grabbing you out of the second floor and taking you backstage, and hopefully Keith Richards doesn't get you into the wrong stuff. But he changed that young man's life. Their staff changed our evening, wrote down where to have coffee the next morning, where to stop on the road to Tuscany. They showed hospitality. Completely different experience. I know what you're thinking. Well, Bobby, you're in the restaurant business. Of course you think that's important. I do. But I think we need to think that hospitality is important, not just in a restaurant, not just in a spa or a luxury hotel. Hospitality is the secret weapon that we need all of us to partake in. We need leaders of industry. We need tech CEOs. We need bankers. We need college admissions people to use hospitality, because it's about looking out instead of looking in, and it's hard to do. And I know every one of you knows how to do it, but you think, no, I'm not in that business. Thanksgiving's around in 2 months. You're going to have that crazy aunt or crazy uncle or sister's boyfriend that drives you nuts. I have a crazy aunt. I don't even think she likes me. 45 years old. I open the door, I give her a bear hug, and I bring her a glass of wine. She hates it. Bring her a second glass of wine. She doesn't like it. Remind you, I'm a master sommelier. She should like one of these. I pour her a glass of Polini Montrachet, and she says, that'll do. Sits down, puts 2 ice cubes in it. And I'm like, my job is to make Aunt Gail feel great. And every one of you have done that on Thanksgiving or a holiday in December or a family function where you have to overcome that person that comes at you aggressively, just like Rose did, and you make them feel great. Then why do we stop doing hospitality the other 364 days of the year? Every one of us can do great hospitality. It's free. It doesn't take extra people. It just takes you all to think, I can look outward and help someone else. And you'll be better with your workmates, with the people who work underneath you. Think if you're a leader, you can lead people better. So I think every one of us can do great hospitality. I'm asking you tonight when you go out into the evening, let's try it all. A couple days a year, and then a couple weeks a year, and then 365 days a year. Thank you so much, Boulder.
All right, I think Aunt Gail is a great example of that. Always look out, right? Um, in my restaurant, when I'm there, I like to go touch tables, and the act of touching tables is exactly what was described. Is going around and talking to every table and making sure everybody's happy. The impact of that is so huge. Now, of course, I'm the owner of the restaurant. It's different when it comes from the owner than when it comes from the front counter person or bartender. But there are those favorite employees that people do have that they come back to see, right? So that act of looking out and actually trying to make someone feel better, it really does bring a different feeling to someone in the restaurant business who's been there for years. We want to make people feel good. I guess that could be possibly a toxic trait, right? If it's too much people pleasing, but it's definitely a good feeling. So keep that in mind while we discuss everything in this lecture, that idea of being a hospitalian, of wanting to make people feel better, right? Because as soon as you master that, that's when you are going to be that great customer service person. Okay, so let's do a quick overview of today's lecture. We're going to discuss understanding customer expectations, building a positive first impression. We're going to discuss effective communication skills. We'll go over menu knowledge and recommendations and why that's important and ties into all of this. Handling complaints in difficult situation, that Aunt Gail type situation. We're going to watch a very interesting video on that one, right? 2 different scenarios. Teamwork and collaborations. And then we're going to end it with going the extra mile. So let's start it off with understanding customer expectations. So why is it important to understand customer expectations? Now I'm going to jump into the huge audience we have here. Mason, what do you think? Why is it important that we understand customer expectations in a restaurant setting?
Well, I think then when you're delivering that experience, you sort of know where you need to be, like where your bar is that you need to kind of go to if they're coming in expecting like a 3-star Michelin experience versus going in expecting a casual dining experience. It's totally different. And I also think that the customers aren't going to every restaurant expecting that 3-star experience. They are going to meet or exceed their expectations.
Some do, though.
Yeah, I guess some do,
Some
but
do go
most,
into the,
like if
yeah.
I'm going to like a casual place,
Yeah.
I'm expecting it to be casual and relaxed and fun. If someone came to my table like a sommelier or something, I'd be thrown off almost. So kind of knowing where you need to be to deliver that.
Yeah, so right, so when you go to a restaurant, right, we could all go to the grocery store, buy a pack of chicken, right? Buy some rice, we can buy some veggies and we can cook at home, right? So why do we go out, Mason?
To have an experience.
To have an experience, right? To have someone help you, to have someone serve you, to have an overall great experience. You might have that favorite bartender that you'd like to go see, right? Or that favorite server. Over at Benny's, we had a woman named Deanne who had just retired again, right? But people love to come see Deanne at the restaurant, right? She was just that very warm. She was a pure hospitalian, just like in that video, right? So there is an expectation, right, that we need to understand as restaurant owners and restaurant workers, right? When people come in, why people continue to come to our restaurant, how we draw them in, how they're then going to recommend other people to bring them in, right? So let's start off with quality food, right? You're going to want to have good quality food. I'm going to keep referencing myself because I do own a restaurant, right? I have the highest expectations in food, right? Like I have a specific cheese that I love. Flour for my dough. It can't change. And all the time I'm getting reps from different delivery organizations saying, oh, well, I can save you 40 cents on this per pound on this bag of flour, or we can change cheese, right? We've all been to those restaurants where the quality of food just isn't there, right? What do we do, Mason, when the quality of food just isn't there? We don't go back. I'll answer it for you, right? We don't go back to that restaurant, right? We want to go where we know things are going to be good and stay good. I've even had the experience where I go to a restaurant and it's excellent. It's great. I take a break from that restaurant for whatever reason, life happens. I come back 6 months, a year later, right? Not if you've had this experience and the food just tastes different, right? It tastes more cafeteria-y, or you can tell that the quality of food's down, right? Okay, so we need to understand that there's this level expectation that people are going, they could cook at home, but they're coming to our restaurant because they want good quality food that they would buy themselves, right? I always tell my staff, don't send something out, don't drop something on a table that you wouldn't want to get yourself, okay? All right, they're gonna want a clean and present ambiance, right? This is gonna be kind of very relative to I think where people want to go. If they want to go to a punk rock bar, obviously it's going to be probably dirty and grungy and not clean. But if they want to go to a 3-star or even go to Benny's Pizza, right? We have a professional cleaner come and clean the place up, right? It looks nice. You want staff to look good, right? You want prompt service to help with the pleasant dining experience. Now, my restaurant is a little bit different. My restaurant's called fast casual. So people come up and they take a look at the menu, they order from either the front counter or they go to the bar and order, and then we have people bring them their food. Now we refill their drinks for them and get them stuff that they need, but we don't have a full serving, like a full server there, right? Like some restaurants do. Now you go to a 3-star Michelin or you go to Michelin recommended, there's a few of those in San Luis Obispo, and you're gonna get the server with the full experience. But then again, that goes to what the customers are expecting when they come into your restaurant, right? You're gonna want friendly, knowledgeable staff. Now, we're gonna touch on this a little bit later with menu knowledge, right? But you want your staff to know what's going on in your restaurant, okay? You want everybody to be on the same page. What's super, 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 super important, and I have to remind my staff all the time, is be friendly, right? When someone walks in the door, you're going to want to make them feel welcome. You're not going to go to a restaurant or go to a bar where no one pays attention to you, right? You go out there to these establishments to feel happy, to feel welcome. Like that show Cheers, right? There are a couple places in San Luis Obispo that people call, oh, it's my Cheers. Or there's a couple bars and restaurants people call their church, right? It's where they go and it's where they can relax, where they feel like they know everybody, where it's friendly, right? So you greet people when people come in, right? If someone has a question about your hours, about the menu, right? Oh, where's Benny? Or what kind of pepperoni do you use, right? The staff should know these things, all right? You're gonna want the staff to pay attention to people and take accurate orders, all right? And this is huge, this is really big. Flexible menu options. What does that mean? Mason, what do you think that means when I say flexible menu options?
Be accommodating.
Expand.
Now more than ever, there's a lot of people who have certain preferences, gluten preferences. I'm sure you see a lot of those, being pizza, vegan, certain types of vegetarian where they'll eat this but not that, all kinds of stuff. And to create a welcoming environment, probably you'd want to accommodate all of those people or as many as you possibly can and be flexible.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much. So we want to create as much as possible an inclusive experience for people, right? Like you just said, we're seeing this rise in demand for gluten-free, right? Vegan, all that kind of stuff, right? At my restaurant, we do make a gluten-free dough in-house, right? Now the vegan stuff, that gets a little more complicated because there's so many different options. They melt different, right? The cashew is going to melt different than the walnut cheese, et cetera, right? If you know about any of that stuff. So what we do for that, and we broadcast it to people when they message us or ask us in the restaurant, they say, well, do you have vegan cheese? I say, unfortunately, we don't have vegan cheese, but if you bring in the cheese, we will cook it for you, right? Now, there's a gray area of that with, you know, where stuff is packaged and stuff, but if it's sealed and we know it came from a store, then you can use it, right? Okay, so you want to be able to accommodate people, okay? Make them feel that they can come to your restaurant and get something a certain way, okay? And then of course, you're gonna want all of that to be a good value for your money, okay? You know, I've been to restaurants before where you order something, you're like, oh man, that's kind of pricey, but I'm gonna give it a try. You're hoping that there's a good amount of food, right? Or at least the quality is going to be so good that you're going to leave happy and satisfied, right? I can't tell you how many times I've gone to restaurants and I just felt like, oh man, like I just spent 30 bucks and I already feel like I want to get something else. Or I spent 30 bucks and this food's not that great. Back to the quality food thing, right? Doesn't it taste like a cafeteria? We've all been there before, okay? So setting those understanding that there's expectations that customers have of your establishment and meeting those goes so far, okay? And so when you meet all those things, there's importance of meeting and exceeding customer expectations. So what does that mean? What's that going to do for your business? Okay. That customer satisfaction is going to create loyalty, right? There are people that swear by restaurants that go there 2-3 times a week, right? That love the food. All this stuff blends together, right? The happiness, the feeling comfortable, that hospitality mentality, right? Makes very loyal people. And your restaurant is going to rely on those loyal people when there's a recession or it's too hot outside, right? Like some of the issues I have is when it's 90 degrees outside, who wants to go in and get a pizza, right? But we have those loyal customers that do come in and they get pizza because they love the place, all right? They're going to get that positive word of mouth, right? That enhances your brand reputation. One really cool thing that I really recommend, if you have branded merchandise, right? Sell t-shirts. One, that's going to get you revenue from those t-shirt sales, right? People are going to buy them. But two, those are free billboards walking around town, right? And so when people love your spot, they're going to spend money, they're going to give you money to advertise, right? They're going to advertise for free for you, but pay you for it, right? So your brand reputation is going to grow because of that, right? Increased customer retention, people are going to continue to come back, and they're going to spend more and more and more. What's really cool is when you see someone come in and have a good time, then you see them 2 weeks later and they bring in like 4 of their friends, right? So that bill just, that one person that had that great customer experience at your restaurant spent 50 bucks the first time, they brought in 4 more people, right? And they're spending their bill all of a sudden now between the 5-6 of them is going to be like $300-400, right? Okay. And then of course, employee morale and pride. We mentioned that earlier that staff will want to work at your place. There are so many places in town that the staff are so pumped to work at a certain place, and just being in SLO for 40 plus years, there's the staple restaurants. I'm not going to mention any of them, but there's staple restaurants where the same people have worked there for 30 years. You're like, wow, they love it there. It's a culture that they've created, right? So that's exactly what you're going to go for when all of these things kind of mesh perfectly. Okay. Building a positive first impression. So I mentioned this a little bit earlier, and I'll mention Deanne, right? I'll bring back Deanne. I should have put a photo of Deanne up here. She's cute. She's like everyone's grandma. Everyone always used to ask me if she was my mom. But my mom's not that nice or as nice as Deanne. So Deanne, whenever someone came in, Deanne, whether she knew them or not, would act like she knew them. She would run up to them. Her hands were always out. She had an open body language. Now, I'm not asking all you guys to have all your employees do this stuff, but when you get that one employee that is so good at it, let them go, let them do it, right? Go up there, greet them, talk to them. If she knew them, she'd hug them, right? Maybe give them a kiss on the cheek. And then explain the menu to them, right? Make them instantly feel warm, right? So when people walk in that front door, you want the first impression, right? First interaction with your employees to greet customers warmly. What is that going to do? That's going to create a positive first impression. It sets that welcoming tone, right? We want you here in our restaurant. We want you to feel welcome, okay? It builds trust and rapport, right? It establishes a connection with customers. People love it when I walk around, I talk to people, I ask them where they're from. It goes beyond food. It starts with the food and then it goes into where they're from. And then usually, luckily, I can relate to something. I have an uncle from where they live or whatever it is, right? I've visited their town. So just fun stuff like that, right? Building trust with people. And Greeting people enhances comfort, right? It makes them feel relaxed and at ease, right? Like I said, people are choosing to come to your establishment for a reason, okay? They want to feel comfortable. They can do all of this at home. They can open that can of beer at home and it's going to cost them 75 cents. Why are they coming to your bar and restaurant to spend $4 or $5 for that same can of beer, right? Because they want to go somewhere where they feel relaxed and at ease, right? So some of the tips for friendly and welcoming body language, I've mentioned Deanne, that's definitely like the extreme version, right? With the hug and the kiss. Not everyone will like that, right? But the basic level, smiles, right? Smile, just smiling at anyone. What does that usually do? Mason, if I smile at you on the street and I don't know you, well, that might be weird, but if I give you a smile, what are you gonna do?
Smile back
You're
and
gonna
probably
smile
feel
back.
happy.
You're gonna feel happy, right? Okay, cool. That's what we want. A genuine smile. It conveys warmth and approachability, right? You make eye contact with someone, right? Eye contact is really huge. You walk into a place and you, you know, have you ever been in that situation where you're the customer, you walk into a place and the customer service rep or the employee there is looking at the ground or on their phone and not even paying attention to you? And now you're the one trying to make eye contact and smile and create this warmth, but it's just not happening, right? So that's a total failure, right? So you want your representative there to make eye contact, right? That eye contact shows that they care. It goes back to that whole establishing rapport and trust, okay? Use a warm tone. Hey guys, what's going on? How are you? Welcome in, right? All of that stuff is extremely important, right? And then we'll go to that importance of a clean and inviting restaurant environment. If the place is dirty and looks trashy, you're not going to want to go back, right? If it's dirty, trashy, what are you going to think? There's probably rats in the walls, right? Their health inspection's probably not too great. You might Google it real quick, right? You want to make people want to come to your restaurant, right? And like I said, ensures health and safety, impacts customer satisfaction. So that positive first impression is so massive, right? Just like anywhere else in life, it applies to the restaurant business. Okay, effective communication skills. Now, active listening. Okay, what is active listening, Mason?
Paying attention, writing stuff down, be doing other stuff, not, kind of, it's active listening. It's participating in the listening experience,
There you go.
which I'm not practicing 100% right now.
Oh, you're doing great. You're able to answer all the questions I throw at you, right? Active listening. You are participating in the conversation, like you just said. You are internalizing the information coming to you. And then once you do that, right, you're able to answer those questions. It's like you care, you're paying attention, right? So let's say someone comes in and you welcome them and they're looking at the menu and we're looking at the menu together and I'm throwing out some ideas. They're asking me questions, right? We have this banter, we're going back and forth. We're engaging in a communication, in a conversation, right? I'm listening to them. I'm able to process and give them my recommendations, right? So what does that do? It's going to ensure accuracy. So if someone's like, oh man, like I love double cheese on my pizza, but too much cheese. I'm kind of lactose intolerant, right? But I love pizza so much, I'm gonna do it anyway, right? And I'm like, oh man, well, let's maybe do like a light cheese or like a no cheese option because that turns out awesome, right? You're actively listening, you're participating, right? And they're like, oh my gosh, you can do that? I didn't know you could do that, which of course that's basic stuff. Of course, everyone can do that. But that makes them, it gives them so many more options. Or they go, oh my gosh, I love chicken wings. I love the buffalo wings, but I want buffalo on the side because da 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 da. I'm able to actively listen and tell them, oh, of course we can put it on the side. Just tell James up front that you want it on the side. That's changing the menu a little bit for them, tweaking it, but you're actively listening. You're paying attention to them, right? You're being attentive to their needs, right? Oh, I love the veggie, but I can't eat onions, right? Okay, cool. Let's take it off. Not a big deal. Promotes upselling. Now, what is upselling? Upselling is, oh, you love margaritas? We actually happen to have a margarita special today with X, Y, and Z tequila in it, right? It's going to be a few more dollars, but it's great. It's excellent. They go, oh my gosh, that's perfect. I'll take that, right? And then the business is making a few more dollars and they're super happy, right? Resolving issues. Like I said, that lactose intolerant thing, right? That can resolve issues. But as we go, a later slide we're going to talk about with customer complaints, right? Active listening shows people that you're paying attention. Oh my gosh, like you don't like it came out, your food came out a little too cold. Wow, okay, let me go fix that, right? You're actively paying attention to their issues. And it enhances teamwork, right? So active listening isn't only for the customer and the employee, it's also for the employees together, right? If anyone's seen the show The Bear, right? For those of us in the restaurant business, it gives me anxiety every time I watch it. But that's actually a lot of that show is very accurate, right? And you can see that at the beginning of the show, the team was kind of ragtag, put together, left kind of a mess from the cousin or the brother, right? That left it to the brother. And as you see the show progress, the team starts listening to each other and working together until they become a well-oiled machine, right? So just that paying attention to each other, hearing each other, right? The word heard is constant, right? That's a restaurant term that is used all the time, right? That's paying attention to each other. So it enhances teamwork, right? Tips for clear and concise communication with customers. Use positive language, right? The whole like, of course we can do that, right? You want to stay away from using the word no. You can tell people no, but figure out a way to do it, right? Like, oh my gosh, like we could totally normally do that, but we happen to be out of that product today. So let's look for something else, right? So give them other options if you have to tell someone no, right? And then always ask for confirmation. This is pretty big along with active listening, right? What I like my staff to do, and I have to constantly work with them on training this stuff, is reading people's orders back, right? And that's a way of asking for confirmation on what they ordered. Okay. We dealt with this just for a second, dealing with special requests and dietary restrictions. We kind of touched on that a little bit. Offer some options, right? Like I said, the vegan cheese on the pizza is kind of the most bizarre option that it's kind of out of the box. And it's definitely for future visits, right? But just being open to changing the menu up a little bit, right? Definitely if you go to, this last summer I was in Lyon, France, and I visited a 1-star restaurant, and we had, and this was such a failure of this restaurant. We had someone that was gluten-free in our party, and we emailed, right? We had 3 or 4 restaurants that we want to do a 1-star, or at least a starred restaurant, 1, 2, or 3. And there are 3 restaurants we can pick that had availability when we're in town. And we picked this one specifically because we emailed it in advance and said, hey, we have a gluten-free person. Can you help us out with this? And the one that came back, the other 2 said, no, we can't do that. We can't make any exception. And for those of you who've been to some of those restaurants, that's kind of how it is, right? Mason, you've been to a starred restaurant?
I have not.
You have not, okay.
No, it's on the docket.
It's on the docket.
Yeah, but no, I have not.
Yeah.
The 2 that are in Paso.
Okay,
are my
yeah,
first 2,
the test kitchen, right?
And then the one at Justin too, just got a star.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. I think around here they'd probably make some adjustments for you, right?
Yeah.
But maybe in some of those big cities. So we go to this restaurant, right? And we sit down and the food starts coming out and the presentation's beautiful and they're all dressed nice, with their suits and their sneakers on. Guess that's the thing. It was mentioned in the video, right? But the woman who's gluten-free asked the server, is this, can I eat this? Is this gluten-free? She's just double checking, right? Because it like destroys her if it's not. And the server said, I don't know. And it was like the craziest thing in the world, because what do you mean you don't know? We had spent time emailing you. That's why we're here. And we had to explain that. And then so every single dish that came out, she could only eat like one out of 4 dishes. It was insane, even though they had promised they were going to help her out with it, right? So the experience just wasn't there, right? So this is all of that, right? So this doesn't only happen with mom and pop. This happens to restaurants that are starred. that get their stars, because you don't just get a star for food, right? Or looking cool or having the most awesome tattoos that you show out of your, when you're cooking food, whatever it is. It's service, it's presentation, it's all of these things together, right? And it was so sad that we had to do this, and it was like 200 euros a person, like it wasn't cheap. So this is like a failure of everything we talked about, right? That expectation, right? All that just wasn't there. So make sure you're able to be flexible to a point, right? And that's why, like I said, to a point with I'll go back to the vegan cheese thing, is that we just can't stock vegan cheese. And people are so specific about that kind of stuff. But we can easily, we picked up the gluten-free crust. We can easily change things around, leave stuff off of pizzas, right? And it's so easy. All of our servers know there's an open box right in our POS system where it's just like sub this, sub that, right? Okay. And then lastly, listen carefully, communicate clearly, and follow up with people, right? Going back with my story, there was at that one-star restaurant in Lyon, there was no communication, right? We had to do the communicating as a customer, and that's such a failure for that business, right? There was no follow-up after. There was no email saying, hey, how was everything? How can we help? It was nothing, right? So it's super important though, and I'll hit on this with that dietary restrictions to communicate, right? To make sure that if they ordered a cheeseless pizza because they're lactose intolerant and it destroys them, right? We're gonna wanna make sure to communicate with the kitchen, go back there and be like, hey guys, this order came through, it's very important. Then they'll communicate back, heard, we got it, we read the notes, right? And then follow up with the customer. Okay, just double checking there's no cheese on there, and then making everything perfect, okay? Dietary restrictions is very important you do that kind of stuff. Okay, so effective communication skills with customers and also with the staff makes everything great. Menu knowledge and recommendation. I mentioned this earlier. Really important stuff. Importance of staff being knowledgeable about the menu. Menu recommendation, right? So like I mentioned earlier, not only good for upselling is great, right? It's going to make the business more money. It's going to get those tabs bigger, right? It's going to make customers happier because they're getting a better product, hopefully, right? But like I said, when people come into my restaurant, and I try to encourage this with all my staff, and like I said, Deanne was totally on this one. I would sit there. We have our menus on the wall right when they first come in, right? I'll sit there and look at the menus with them. We'll point things out. We'll talk about stuff. I'll recommend stuff, right? There's always my go-to recommends. Customers all day long, if they're new to a restaurant, they're going to say, I don't know what to get. I've heard this is good. What do you recommend, right? Does that happen to you, Mason? Yes. And is that cool, right? When someone recommends something.
Yes.
And hopefully it's going to be a good recommendation, right?
Trust their recommendation a lot more,
Yes.
especially if it's my first time.
Yeah.
I know that they live there probably or close to, and I've had a lot of the food.
Have you been to a restaurant where the staff is working and you say, well, what about the ragu? And then they go, I don't know. I haven't had it.
Yes.
Right? How does that make you feel?
It's not.
It's not an overwhelming.
Like, oh, maybe they're gluten free or something.
Yeah.
But I try to give them the benefit of the doubt, but mostly it's negative. Yeah.
Okay. And so another scenario: what if you walk into a restaurant and you're sitting down and you say, "How about the ragu?" And then the server goes, "You know what? It's good, but I'm going to say that if you want to blow your mind, you do the pork chop."
Oh, that's the best thing ever.
Right?
That's the best thing ever.
Yeah. Totally. Right. So that's the kind of experience. Now, of course, for me, everything's excellent, right? It's my restaurant. But I do have my favorites that I like to recommend to people, right? And that goes so far with customer retention and making people feel comfortable and the rapport and that trust. That's what this is. Remember, that video that we watched is setting the tone for this entire lecture, right? And what we want to remember, we want to be hospitalians. We want to make people feel good when they come into our establishment, right? Item recommendations, seasonal and regional specials, right? This is so awesome. People feel real connected to the region they're in. We are all so proud of San Luis Obispo, San Luis County, or whatever city you live in, right? Because so much good food is grown in this area, right? There's so many cool things going on. Now I'm going to go back to my restaurant. My kitchen manager, Franco, is super good at this. Every month we have a pizza of the month, right? And it's fun stuff. This month we're doing an egg roll pizza, which is like Asian inspired. It's kind of sweet. It's got pork belly that we cook in house, right? And everything changes. Then every year we figure out what pizza sold the best, and we put that on the menu, right? So the next pizza that's going to go on the menu that we've done twice now is called the leftover pizza, right? So it's essentially like a turkey dinner on a pizza, right? Because we all know that after Thanksgiving, we eat those leftovers for days and we love it, right? So like people love those kind of things. They love the nostalgia of a leftover, like the idea of a leftover pizza, right? They love the food, they love the taste. So, and you know, I see all the time, I was at Farmer's Market on Saturday in San Luis Obispo. They run one at the parking lot over there by the old Trader, what is that? Yeah, what was that? World Market, there you go. I think that's the last standing, REI, right? Okay, over there. And I ran into like 4 or 5 chefs. So it's super cool seeing chefs there getting that market fresh food for their food, right? Those fresh tomatoes, those onions, stuff like that. So try to do that as much as possible, right? The vibe and pulse of the restaurant, right? Like I said, I just explained that pizza, the leftover pizza with like so much happiness, right? And nostalgia in my kind of voice and actions, right? You want the staff to know that much about the menu, or to be like, oh my God, I love the wings, or oh my God, I love the meatballs, we make them in-house. I'm definitely plugging my restaurant, sorry guys. But all of that stuff, right, gets your staff excited, and then it gets people excited about the restaurant. Dietary restrictions, I think we've beat that dead horse, but staff needs to know what's in things, right? I'll go back to that Lyon story where every single dish that came out, we had to ask, is this gluten-free? And the staff almost every single time. And they even like swapped out the first girl to another dude, and they said, I don't know. It's like, how do you not know? How is this a 1-star in Lyon, which is like known as what, the food capital of France? Right? And you don't know what's in this product. It like blew my mind. It's insane. So that not only kills any kind of trust with your customer, but it can be literally deadly, right? Okay. How to make menu recommendations based on customer preferences. We talked about this. Be confident. Like, okay, yeah, I love the ragu, but the meatball, and hear me out, the meatball with the white sauce is excellent. Try it. That confidence, right, shows people, oh my gosh, this dude knows what he's talking about. He's had it before, obviously, and loves it, okay? Now, one way, and I didn't put this up here, you have to let the staff taste the food, right? So in Franco, every month when he makes his new pizza, he makes a baby little pizza version and he gives it to the staff so everybody gets to taste it, right? I want the staff to taste all the food. A lot of times what restaurant owners will do is they'll have company meetings. And when they have their company meetings, they will actually make the food and say, if you haven't had any of the food, taste it, right? So they let everybody taste it. And that's a great way to get this going, okay? Okay, so how to make menu recommendations based on customer preferences. Be confident, understand the menu and suggest similar items. That's exactly what we're talking about right now. Highlight the specialties. Like I said, the pizza of the month that we do. We also do, Franco is really cool about this. We have a cinnamon stick product, which is a dessert, and it's made from our doughs. And it's essentially cinnamon and sugar that we bake into it, right? It's like a cinnamon toast crunch type thing, right? But what Frank does is every month, along with that pizza of the month, he changes the flavor of the cinnamon on top. So you can always get the standard cinnamon flavor, right? Or the standard frosting, but he likes to do something special. So this month, we have the standard frosting for the cinnamon sticks. And he also does, this month he did a mango frosting, which is super good. And he likes to match it, try to match it with the pizza of the month as much as possible. He's done like strawberry, he's done marshmallow, he's done all these different flavors that's super cool. So the staff can definitely understand that and point that out, right? You can customize stuff, like I said. There's always borders and limits on everything, right? I think we've all had those customers that sub everything. But I would rather walk into a restaurant and be able to sub mayonnaise out of a product, because I'm not a big mayonnaise guy, right? than go to a restaurant that says no subs. And I've been to restaurants, I've been to pop-ups where there's no subs for whatever reason, and people don't like it. I don't like it, other people don't like it, okay? And then of course, always upsell, but upsell in a way that you're maintaining trust with the customer, okay? There's a reason why I've said this like 10 times, handle allergies and dietary restrictions responsibly. If someone tells you that they're allergic to something, don't serve it to them, right? If someone tells you they're allergic to something, acknowledge that and look into it for them, okay? A little side story, I had someone that couldn't eat soy, so they wanted to see if soy was in a certain, like one of the, we have this Korean sauce for our wings. And so they couldn't eat soy. So I went back and looked on their little, you know, is soy in this? And then I actually went to the website and looked. This is all when the customer was there, right? Went to the website and looked into the ingredients for that product, right? And saw that there's no soy in the product. So then I told them there's no soy confidently, and they ordered it and they loved it, okay? So menu knowledge and recommendations is an awesome way, to build trust and to grow your business and to get more business. Okay. Handling complaints in difficult situations, right? So we spent a lot of time. Yes.
I wanted to just talk a little bit about when you were talking about the leftovers pizza. I'm going to plug Benny's too for a second. Last November, I got it, and I brought it home to my roommates. And this stuff works because every single time we bring up Benny's comes up or they see it, they still bring that up. They still are like, that pizza was the bomb almost a year later. So nice. For those of you at home, I can say firsthand that stuff works very, very well. Because like I said, a year later, they're still talking about it with like raving about it, like stuff like that. So
yeah, awesome. And thank you for that.
To share a story.
Thank you for that plug. And like, it's a pizza that we will be adding to the menu. It's just, this is kind of back of the house stuff, right? And business owner stuff is that for me personally, if I have a product, I need to use the ingredients in those products in multiple different things, right? So that was kind of when Frank came to me with that pizza idea, and I'm like, you're gonna put turkey on it? you're gonna put mashed potatoes on a pizza, right? I'm like, we can't put those on anything else. He's like, just trust me, let me do it for this, and when we did it, so I'm gonna have to get it inventive when we actually put it on the menu. But see, then again, that chopped turkey that we put on the pizza, it's just gonna then be integrated into the menu as a topping,
right?
Which is kind of funky, but like people get that kind of stuff, yeah. Right? Yeah. So we spent a lot of time talking about how to greet people, how to be nice to people, right? But then we're always going to deal with, I believe her name was Aunt Gail from the video, right? Those people that are never happy, or the people that there's an actual legitimate issue in your restaurant, because those happen too, believe it or not, right? More than you think, right? So let's talk about steps to handle customer complaints effectively. Let's actually watch this video first, and then we'll talk about it.
How would you deal with a difficult customer?
How would I deal with a difficult customer? That is a good question. I would deal with a difficult customer by letting them know who's in charge. Because whenever dealing with difficult or angry customers, you can't let them get the better of you.
How would you deal with a difficult customer?
First of all, I understand how important excellent customer service is to your business. I would deal with a difficult customer by being calm, lowering my voice, asking them questions and then listening. I would apologize if the company was at fault, try to build a good rapport with them, be positive and create a solution they were happy with. Finally, I would keep the customer updated with progress if required and learn from any mistakes that had been made.
How would you deal with a difficult customer?
How would I deal with a difficult customer? That is.
So I chose this video, the message that the guy gives, so, you know, the wrong way, obviously, he was setting a tone with like a real aggravated body language. And it was kind of funny because he wrapped that into the right way to handle something, but kept that really aggravated tone, right? Like an aggro tone. But the second way is spot on, right? Besides, of course, his kind of elevated aggressive demeanor. You want to stay calm and composed, right? You want to empathize with the person. You want to let them know that we're on the same page, right? It's not us against them. It's like, oh my gosh, like this showed up in your pizza, right? That's not right. Or you know, you didn't order onions. Absolutely, you're right. Let me go talk to someone about it, right? You want to try to solve the problem of the customer, right? Apologize, like that video said, if it's the company's fault. Oh my gosh, that's that mess up. But I think what's super important is, and this is stuff that we need to train our employees, and it's not always super easy, is getting rid of that ego in the server or even the owner. Oh my gosh. To be able to recognize that it's not a personal attack against you, right, as the employee or the owner. If the customer is not satisfied with something, we need to remember and go back to that initial video we watched about being a hospitalian, right? We need to make people feel good. We need to look out. He said a line in that video, look out instead of looking in, right? Because when we look in, we're concerned about our ego, ourselves. We take things personally, right? But take a step back and understand that this person came to your restaurant for a reason, right? They came there to feel comfortable, to have trust that they're going to get what they ordered, to have an excellent time, to have fun with their friends, right? And 9 times out of 10, if we put a pizza out and it has onions on it and they hate onions, right? And they said that to the person when they ordered it. I hate onions. I can't stand it. And the onions ended up on the pizza anyway. That person's going to feel personally attacked, right? Their ego is now going to be hurt. So it is our responsibility now to make them feel at ease as much as possible. And like I said, 9 times out of 10, we can make that situation better, right? They're not all going to be Aunt Gail's where they're never, 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 never happy. That does happen sometimes, right? And like I said, there are boundaries and limits on what we can do or should do, right? But 9 times out of 10, we can make a situation better. Stay calm and composed. Empathize with them. Apologize, but sincerely, right? How many times have we interacted with someone and they've done something and you're like, man, come on, really? And they're like, sorry, you know, they don't make eye contact. They don't look at you. They maybe give a little tough, like I just did. Sorry, whatever, you know, not a big deal. You know, no, you say, oh my gosh, I'm totally sorry. Let me make this better. Let me fix this for you, right? And just like in that video, the second video we watched, is that you want to keep people updated on stuff, right? If you mess up an order, right? Or if I'm aware of an order being messed up, I will do all those things I just said. Stay calm and composed, apologize, be like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, empathize, right? And then keep people in the loop, because people want to be kept in the loop on things, right? Like, okay, I went back to chef. He's going to fire you a new pizza, right? We're looking at 10 to 15 minutes, right? Can I get anything for you in between, right? Now, at my restaurant, my staff, they do have leeway to comp certain things, right? But I ask that they talk to a manager, they talk to me before they do it, run it past me. And usually if it gets to that point, I'll go and talk to them, right? So little minor things, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Let me give you, like, I'll give them like this product called Hot Honey that we make in-house. It's super good. It usually costs about $3. It's an easy giveaway, right? It's cheap. If it's a huge issue, oh my gosh, let me comp that pizza, but I got a new one coming out for you, right? Give them things. People want to be given things, right? It's a weird psychology thing. They want to receive something if something gets messed up, right? But 9 times out of 10, these things can be resolved. And then always follow up, always, always, always follow up. Keep them in the loop and follow up, right? And that's gonna make you handle things so much better. What's really interesting about this discussion, right, on handling complaints in difficult situations, it can not only be applied to the restaurant business, it can be applied to personal relationships and your entire life, right? Okay, so handling complaints in difficult situations. Teamwork and collaboration. Let's shift gears and talk about the staff, okay? I'll go back to that Leon story because it's so prominent, right? That there was zero communication. We had emailed before, we even emailed the day before, double checking that they're still going to be able to accommodate our gluten-free issues, right? Apparently, whoever was answering that email did not tell the host and definitely did not tell the chef and definitely did not tell the servers, right? There was no teamwork. There was no collaboration. There was no communication, right? So when everyone is on the same page, when everyone knows the menu, when everyone knows the procedures, when everyone knows substitutions that are coming through, when people are actively talking to each other, when people are reminding each other to do things, but in a positive and helpful and collaborative way, the vibe and the pulse of the restaurant is just like insanely good, right? I've walked into so many restaurants where everybody gets along and it's a well-oiled machine and everything is happening perfectly. Food's coming out great. Have you ever looked? There are some open air restaurants or open kitchen restaurant situations where you look back there. Actually, I'm going to use an example. I'm going to plug a business. There's a business in Cambria called the Sea Chest, right? It's a great restaurant. It's owned by a guy named Steve. He's such a fun guy, right? Sea Chest is, you can sit at a table, right? It's an old school restaurant. It looks like grandma's house from the 80s inside. But the staff is awesome. They're fun. They're working together. You can tell that they're an extended family, right? And if you've been in the restaurant business and worked at a place for years and years and years, your coworkers are your family, right? You're the ones who are working New Year's Eve together. You're working sometimes Christmas together, so they become your family. And then, of course, you get off work so late that you go and have that Friendsgiving with them or whatever it is, right? Anyway, back to the Sea Chest. I always like to go in and sit at the bar. Now, the bar is not an alcohol bar, right? A bar is an open kitchen scenario where you can watch the employees working and making the food for the entire restaurant, right? Including your own food. And watching everybody work together, you can tell that they, one, enjoy working there. Two, they are constantly talking, and it's a small little space, right? It's like 15 feet by like 6 feet. It's tiny space, right? But they vibe and they work together so good. And like I said, I like to sit at the bar for a reason. I like to watch them. It gives me joy to watch them cook my food and enjoy it, right? So they're working great. Of course, hiring the right people, right, is part of this, but also training, right? You need to train your staff properly. I can't tell you how many times there's been staff that fall through the cracks, and I'll use the kitchen example of maybe they're not cleaning their station as well as they should, right? Their prep station or where they're working. So then there's another staff member that comes on after them is like, hey, Tony isn't cleaning his station. So now I'm taking over from him on this new shift and it's a mess. I have to clean it, right? So that's why these, you have protocols in place and you train your staff to do small little things like that you don't really think is that big of a deal. That turns out to be a huge deal. Because if Tony's leaving that space clean for James or whoever's coming on next, James doesn't even think about it. And then when they leave, they fist bump each other instead of James giving him a dirty look for leaving a dirty space, right? Get everyone on the same page on that. Using technology. At Benny's, we use Schedulefly to make our schedule. Then we can message each other through that app. We've used a few different apps for that, and we kind of settled on that as the best for everybody. But that's where we all talk to each other, right? We also have group texts. I like to keep one or the other for the biggest thing. Use technology to tell each other what the specials are. Use technology to tell each other if there's a positive or a negative event that happened at the restaurant, right? So everybody is aware of what happened, right? Maybe like on the negative side of things, maybe if someone you're a bar and someone got in a fight the night before, you're going to want to tell staff who that person is, that they can't come back anymore, right? Keep everyone on the same page, right? Keeps everyone happy, safe, stuff like that. On the positive side, you can say, Chris, one of our regulars, he's moving out of town next week. His last day is on this day, just so everyone knows. And if you want to come in and you're not working that day, go ahead and come on in and say bye to Chris. Or you don't even have to say that. If they love Chris so much, they'll show up and be like, hey, I saw on the app that it's your last day. We want to come say bye, right? So keep everybody on the same page. Communication is key, right? Team meetings and team building activities. We don't get too corporate in the restaurant world unless you're a corporate restaurant with the whole team building activities. I think most of the team building activities, for those of you who've been in restaurants forever, is you go to a team meeting, you'll taste some food, you'll talk about policies. It's usually pretty mundane, but it's stuff that we all have to get through for what I just mentioned. And usually the team building activities is a little tongue in cheek, is cleaning the restaurant for an hour afterward. But if you're a military or law enforcement, I have some of that experience in my past. It's called, you're all in the suck together, right? You're all doing these things that you don't want to do, but you're doing it together. So you actually build a team. I'll go back to The Bear, watch The Bear, watch a couple of seasons of that. You'll see that the stress and all that of being in a restaurant is actually a default team building activity. But if you have team building activities that you want to use, I highly recommend that. Usually in the fast-paced world of the restaurants, we don't have time for that, but use it if it works. Encouraging a positive work environment, that's going to promote teamwork. Offer recognition and awards. I've seen restaurants have photos of employee of the month, fun stuff like that. In the past at my restaurant, we have run, we've given them gift cards to other restaurants for top sales. We did that for the bar specifically, top sales for the bar. So whatever works for you guys, do some of that. This is huge for me, right? Lead by example. So I tell my management that, if you're behind the bar, don't drink behind the bar. If you're, don't you are the person that people look to for guidance. So for me personally, and this is big in the restaurant world, especially if there's a bar attached to it, that sometimes you'll see the owner sitting there all day long just drinking at the bar. And for me, that's not okay, because I want to lead by example. I don't want to show my employees that I'm just here to come drink and hang out and tell them what to do, right? If I'm at the restaurant, I'm talking to people, I'm touching tables, I'm greeting people at the front, I'm checking in with everything we just talked about, I'm doing, right? But I'm also bussing tables, right? And it's really interesting that I think it works better that if, a staff is maybe on their phone for a hot second, right? Which is never good, but on the phone for a hot second, checking something. And there's some tables that need to be bussed, I'll just go bust the tables. And it's really interesting to watch them notice me doing that and then run over there and do it. So it's not me micromanaging, it's me actually going there and setting an example for the employees of what should be happening, right? So lead by example, okay? Work-life balance, this is super important too. Restaurants are very well known for that double-edged sword, right? The shift work, long hours, maybe you might miss a holiday, right? Surprisingly, a lot of people pick up those shifts, right? So people can go do things. But on the flip side, in my 20s, when I was a bartender, after I worked for the probation department for 10 years, and then I went into, I wanted to shift gears, so I wanted to get into academia. So I started working on a master's degree, but I bartended at night, and I was making almost 6 figures bartending in Slow, which is insane, right? But that's how kind of vibrant our downtown bar scene is, right? I was able to work on a master's degree during the day and work at night, and it worked out perfectly, right? So there's that positive part of a work-life balance, right? Where the shift work enables those kind of things, right? But on the negative end, right? Maybe you're always, maybe your shifts fall on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, right? So then you're never enjoying a weekend. This was always the biggest thing for me, working my way through the restaurants and bars, is that all the non-industry people, restaurant industry people, like you work at the county or wherever you work, they work 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, right? So they were doing these fun things. On Saturday, they're wine tasting, or they're going to Lake Nacimiento, or they're going camping at Big Sur, whatever, on a Friday, Saturday night. I couldn't do, right? Because of that, that my shifts and like I made the money on the weekends, right? I don't make the money on the Monday night. I make the money on a Friday night, right? So it's important as a business owner to realize that people are going to need to take some of those days off sometimes, and to grant them those days off and make things work as much as possible, right? I think we're always going to have those employees that want every weekend off. Okay, well, let's work together and try to make something happen, right? Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't, right? But as a business owner, you need to make sure that you're aware of that situation with your employees, all right? And all of this we just talked about is going to create a better customer service, because your employees are going to be happy, right? I mentioned that there are places in SLO that I visit that the same employees have been working there for like 20 years, right? There's a reason for that, okay? It's because they love working there, and they have this like badge of honor that they wear every time they show up to one of these restaurants to work, because they love it so much, right? And that just makes them a happy employee. Okay, so that wraps up teamwork and collaboration. That makes your restaurant just such a better place when everything falls in place. Going the extra mile. I'll revert back to that video, right, of being a hospitalian. Importance of personalized service. So it's so great when someone walks in and they're a repeat customer and you recognize them and you talk to them. I have customers that come in maybe once every 6 months, and that's not because they're going to other places. It's because they live in San Diego, or they live in Monterey, or they live far away. And every time they come to SLO, they have to come to the restaurant. And when I don't recognize them all the time, probably 70, 80%, but when I do recognize people, right, that's the initial recognition of someone. When I start talking to someone, it will come back. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. People are so happy when you recognize small things about them, right? And that goes from the every 6-month customer to the everyday customer. You just know what they want, right? Kind of funny, I have a customer that's in there 4 days a week, and she likes to get kind of an off menu thing. She grew up with one of the cooks, so she's allowed a little special privilege on creating her own little special pizza. And it got to a point where it was some of the other kitchen staff were like, hey, like, we need more instruction on this, Ben. We need more kind of like, what do we do with this? How do we make it? What do we charge, right? Because it's kind of all over the place. So with her there in the restaurant, I made a button on the computer for her, right? And you don't do this for everyone, right? But you do this for the people that are repeat customers. And I gave it a funny name, right? A little inappropriate, but funny. And she loved it. And she went and told everybody, which is a good and bad thing. That's a double-edged sword. But it made her feel so good, right? And like in that video where that couple celebrating, right, got that free glass of wine. It was a very personalized, very intimate service that you give people, and people love that, and they will always come back for that, right? That video, surprise and delight, offering complimentary items or discounts, right? There's been times where there was a table that is having a great time, having so much fun, and I will get them free dessert, right? They've already spent $400 at the restaurant. I can comp $3 in my cost of tiramisu for them, right? And they absolutely love it. And I think it's kind of funny, like if there's 10 people, I've done this before, 10 or 12 people, I'll bring out 2 tiramisus with 12 spoons, right? And just watch them all devour it and share it together. And they absolutely love it, right? And what all of this is gonna do is gonna encourage customer loyalty through that exceptional service. Okay, so going the extra mile, extremely important. As a business owner, you can choose how you want to go that extra mile, kind of do the math, figure out what's going to work best, customize things for people. If someone is, eat something special, maybe comp that for them, or figure out a way to make that extra mile work for your business. And in the conclusion, summary of the key points covered in this presentation. Super important to understand your customers, right? And hopefully your customers understand what they're stepping into also, right? Make a positive first impression with people. Say hello to them, smile, welcome them in. Remember, we want to make people feel comfortable. Create kind of a cheers scenario for people, whether it's their first time or their 20th time or 100th time, right? You want them to come in and know, right, that they're going to be treated with respect, that they're going to feel welcome, they're going to be comfortable, okay? Effective communication skills with that customer, right? Make sure that you are understanding their needs when they come in, right? That goes with the menu knowledge. Make sure that your staff is going to know that menu. Let's jump back up to effective communication skills. You want the staff to also talk together. That goes down with that teamwork and collaboration, right? You want everyone to communicate and be on the same page. Menu knowledge, super important for that upsell, super important for the dietary restrictions, and super important for looking competent, right? You want people to know that your staff know what they're doing, right? Then there's that confidence that just comes from that, right? And makes you feel like you can trust the establishment, right? You want to handle those difficult situations. You want to be calm. You want to apologize. You want to make things better for someone. You want to be that hospitalian, right? Dealing with Aunt Grace. You want to try and try and try. You want to make them feel that they want to come back to your place, right? Teamwork and collaboration. That's going to get the staff on the same page, the staff knowing the menu, everyone communicating with each other, leaving spaces clean for each other, right? Knowing that, you know, having the front counter check in with the cook, even though they wrote it on the notes and the ticket, say, hey man, we got that ticket 32 is gluten-free or no onions, just double checking, and they'll say heard, they'll say yes, good, okay? Then of course, go on that extra mile. You want to make people feel even more comfortable in your establishment. Like I'll give that example of the 12 people that loved the restaurant. They're eating, they're drinking at a multi-$100 tab, which is a lot for my restaurant. And giving them a few pieces of dessert is going to not only actually give them awareness of that product for next time they come in, but it makes them feel that they got something special. One thing I'll add on this, going the extra mile, I have a friend that his granddaughter was in town from Utah. And he messaged me, his name's Marty. He said, hey, Ben, my granddaughter's in town from Utah. She loves your pizza. Do you think, she's been asking, how do you make it? Do you think we can surprise her and we can get her back there and cook a pizza? And I said, no problem. It was on a Sunday. I showed up, I met them. We surprised her. I brought out an apron, put an apron on her, brought her back there. Grandma was filming the whole thing. We put gloves on her, right? We worked her through and she made an entire pizza, put it in the oven, took it out, cut it, and then she was able to bring it out to the family. And everybody there, it wasn't only her that I impacted, right? By doing that, we impacted an entire group of 25 people that had come there just for that, right? So if you can do things like that, I highly recommend it, because everyone there is now going to leave with that positive experience, okay? And of course, encouragement for the staff to implement the learnings in their daily interactions. So yeah, all of this stuff, make sure to incorporate into staff. All right, so that's it. Any questions?